I've always felt different. I've always seen things, but when I tried to express them as a child, I was always told to ignore it.
There were people that I didn't know that came to me and said, I have this message that I keep getting that I have to deliver to you.
All of a sudden, out of the shadows, a homeless man just jumped right in front of me. And he said, I'm a soul just like you.
I love it.
I wanted to understand the universe and who and what we are and what are we doing here.
We're all part of this amazing soul wave tapping into each other.
This was a major life changer.
You are a light. You have helped me a ton. Thank you.
You've given me the courage to live more from my soul.
Millions of people are awakening.
So wake up with Michele Meiche. Be pleased to hear the best-selling authors and experts in the fields of cutting-edge self-help, personal growth, metaphysics, and spirituality. The soul path of awakening.
Understand what living awake is. Hey, everyone. Hello, soul lights. You're going to hear me getting my tea in the background. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. Great to have you here. I hope you will subscribe. You can actually subscribe through Blog Talk, but love to have you subscribe on YouTube because we're getting a nice connection there so that when I begin doing live over there that you'll get the notifications. And also, I really, really hope that everyone listening, every single one of you will subscribe to Soul Insights and Tarot. Really wanting to bridge this community and that community so we have one big soul path community. So Soul Insights and Tarot, you can get a lot of support there in pick a card and readings, mini downloads, meditations in the readings, also alignment meditations. So that would be great. And also if you want to do a deeper dive into metaphysics, spiritualism, and spirituality, all things occult and esoteric, and transpersonal, psychological, connect with me on Patreon to do that. And, of course, Instagram. Love to have you over on Instagram as well. So, hello. If you're listening by phone, that's great. If you're wondering how to listen by phone and how to call in, that number is 347-539-5122 and press 1 on the keypad. So I see a lot of people listening by phone. Hi, everyone in chat and listening by phone. But now, if you do have a question or a comment, you need to press 1. Make sure you press 1 on the keypad. That lets me know that you have a question or a comment. So I just put that in the chat. All righty. So I'm really excited to have back Daniel Fiverson, Evolutionary Astrologers, coming on about 12:45. He's going to be talking about this lunar eclipse, full moon, obviously, in Scorpio, lunar eclipse. And we'll talk eclipse cycles. I'm going to share a bit on that, but more from the Akashic level of what's going on. So the soul, evolutionary astrology does look at the soul. But let's say more from what's going on in the spirit realm. What's going on right now energetically. And also definitely answer your calls, 347-539-5122. 347-539-5122. Press 1 on your keypad. Okay, gang, also, if you hear me a little funny, and I may have to mute a bit because I've been coughing, I've had a cough. I did 2, some of you may not know, but I do house cleansing and clearing, and it can take a lot out of me, and I can tend to funnel or channel the info. But I've been traveling also, putting a lot out. Who knows? This eclipse, a purge. So those of you that ever need that, yes, it's a 2-part process for me, 2 days. The first day I tune in, remote view the location, connect in with any spirits that are present, or notice if there's actual spirits present, or is it thought forms that are animated? Is it in human body form people that are putting the negativity, the negative energy towards the house, the home, the building, the business, or whatever the location? And then the second day, and then I prepare the day before with certain potions, mixtures that I make, and get my shamanic bundle together, everything that I'm going to use, and then there's the day on site. And then lately what I've been doing also, it depends on the house that I'm clearing or what's going on. But I also like to do any of the people in the house or the main person in the house, do the energy work or clearing the energy. And everything is energy, and we're like one big chakra of the world and universe, and we have many chakras or ley lines or energy points, vortexes within us, vortices, and so do, homes. So does property, buildings, homes, sacred sites. Everything holds a vibrational template as well as a design, just like we do. So I really energetically get in there. And it's funny, someone asked me, they're like, oh, you're just going to go over there and smudge. And I'm like, no, actually smudging doesn't work. If you don't get in there energetically and get in through the etheric astral plane, you have to get into to properly clear something, you have to get in there energetically, just like channeling, just like being a psychic medium. You have to get in there into the energy and be open. And I absolutely love doing it because I get to connect. I meet amazing people, for one thing, on this level, this dimension, but also in the spirit realm, whether they're trapped or can't go on, or, they'll give me information. Like one of the houses, it had to do with inheritance and somebody feeling that they were owed that house for caretaking. And so you got to remember, too, it's not just spirit, those that are not in physical form or denser physical form. What's left is really a holographic image. And in that situation, the person felt bad, the one that had passed on and didn't leave the house to this other person. Another situation that I did have to do with someone that had crossed over or passed on. There had been long illness and a death. And they were just, having trouble, anyway, there was other things tied to that. But they were basically not able to quite move on as much, and I have found no matter what state someone is in, they're always helpful and always glad to some degree once you work with them for a while to move on. Everything is connected. And speaking of that, if you ever need or want something like that, that's good to do with a house blessing too. I add that in. You can always email me at info@soulplayground.life, info@soulplayground.life, and that will. Good to see everyone in the chat. Yeah. So again, 347-539-5122 is the number, and press 1 on the keypad to get in the queue. So I'm going to just share a little bit here from tuning in, like where we're at, or many people are at in this great awakening, this time of awakening. In fact, I saw something, I think it's Mickey Willis coming out with a film, The Great Awakening. And it's funny, in 2011, I believe, I came out with a course on Daily Om called The Great Awakening, or Great Soul Awakening, which is really not the soul awakening, but we are awakening this dimension to the soul. And since 2006, I have been talking about the Great Awakening, sharing, teaching on what that is and how it's awakenings. It's awakening in all sectors, all areas of life. And, so it's just interesting to see how that is kind of catching on. You can even hear it in the mainstream or nomenclature, vernacular, mainstream buzz, pop culture, what people are talking about, where they're awakening to this or they're awakening to that. And that's spirit coming through in these various areas. And once we understand that, we know really what to look at and where we're at. and where you're at. If you can look and see where you're at in your awakening process as well as the collective awakening process. So some of the messaging that I've been getting from the oversouls in the spiritual hierarchy who've guided me through this, as well as God, source energy, but it's all God energy, just manifested in different ways for different purposes. And so there is a guiding force, a guiding principle, a planetary principle of energetic beings that do guide us if we're open to it, or there are different people planted around the world that have this information kind of earlier to give people a heads up, to guide and say, this is what's going on, this is where we're going. Kind of like when you're on a hike, you might have the person at the head of the hike and someone else may go ahead, like a lookout ahead, to say, okay, that trail we were going to take, now there's a tree fallen and, it might be fun to climb over it, or we can climb over the boulders, or there's another road that they made that, depending on how hard of a hike we want. And that's something I would ask you all to consider, is how hard of a hike do you want? So we are at a crossroads, and right now, where a lot of our codes, in fact, I think end of May I'm going to be doing a workshop on this, on the key codes. There are a lot of key codes that are starting to be decoded or go off, if you will. It's like, think of numerical coding, vibrational coding, and key codes are main codes that open different key openings or doorways, if you will. And we all have complementary ones to each other, or complementary ones that are more active. And so those are starting to go off now within us, and we're starting to beep. It's kind of like our own GPS as well as compass, right? Where we're beeping. You ever been backing up and the car's beep, 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 or you see a truck beep, 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 and you get closer to something and it's beep, 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 beep. So that's starting to go off, and for some people you're getting the beep, 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 beep. It's going faster, like you're getting close, or also about, what's that kids game, hot or cold, getting hotter. So part of what it's teaching everyone and giving us the access point of accessing through the higher vibrational frequency of us, which is the soul self, or the higher self, that's seamlessly connected to the soul, but to follow resonance and coherence, and to begin to the deeper emotional clearing, which I do feel that this eclipse, this lunar eclipse, has a lot to do with that deep dive emotional clearing, that energy in motion. And partly, it is in Scorpio, which is hitting the South Node. And I don't always look at South Node or because I look at everything as a continuum. I don't always look at South Node or Scorpio. It's not just the surgeon. Everybody focuses a lot on Scorpio, about letting go. Oh, you got to let go. You got to cut this out. Yeah, but it's also the occult. And so where and how are you getting occult or hidden information, or information that's more vibrational, right? Pluto and ruling Scorpio, and traditional or earlier ruler Mars. Mars is an interesting sign. It's not just free-floating energy. Mars energy is very directed. It's a very specific way of how you navigate through the world. So what your Mars is in, what sign and what house is going to determine a lot. Like my Mars is in Virgo, and it's in the 12th house. So I have to navigate very much in a Piscean way. Otherwise, things don't happen. And I've had a couple of astrology teachers that had Mars in the 12th, and specifically one that had Mars in Virgo in the 12th, and other people that I've run across that had Mars in the 12th, and they said they learned early on you can't push your will. You can have an idea, but it's very much coming from spirit, or the spirit realm of how you navigate, and it brings up having faith, surrendering to something greater to get into that greater flow. Now, someone with, let's say, Mars in Aries, Mars in Leo or Mars in the first house, Mars in the 10th house. They're going to have a whole different experience. So right now it's really important to look honestly with self-transparency of how do I best navigate and how do I align more to my true nature. And so it does take more awareness, more consciousness, more higher awareness and understanding to not kid oneself, to step back and go, when I do ABC, things are much better. They might be slower, but they're much better. I'm much more aligned. Because what's happening now is we're really getting set up for some kind of propulsion into our life, whether it's into our gifts, a leadership position, whether it's your own leadership of yourself or those around you, or it could be family. And many people, it's going to be something more public. It is about actualizing, realizing and then actualizing what you know on a soul level and what you're meant to do. And so in a way, it is like, being benched, like you still have to go to practice in sports, or you're a dancer, but you're third line or fourth line, and so you don't get on the stage a lot. Or you feel like, or you still have to go and dance. You still have to go to dance practice. You still have to go to soccer or football, whatever. You still have to go. You still have to prepare. So we've been doing a lot of preparation. That's really what I want to communicate before we get to callers, is we've been doing a lot of preparation. And it doesn't matter how much life experience you've had, how much you've been doing. It's like, is enough of the templates, the overlays that have been put on you, is enough of that removed or dissolved enough, the veils, so that you're more in the original soul design. In other words, you have more potent spiritual energy, less diluted spiritual energy, and you will be put to use, a greater use than you have experienced before. But it means that we also have to insert ourselves more in our life. In other words, take more of a key position in our life and have that understanding that we're not just in service to other people or to the greater idea that we're all in service to is ourselves, is our soul. So how do we insert ourselves more into our life? And it's not in the old, especially that this is, I would say, as when Pluto goes into Aquarius, especially next year, this will be more seen. I had someone ask me the other day, like, what are we here for? About, they were talking about learning lessons. I said, well, no, we're not actually here about learning lessons. Learning is a byproduct. You see that with a child. You see that with animal beings. They learn. Squirrels learn where the nuts are. They didn't come here to say, oh, we're incarnating to learn about nuts and how to find nuts. No, that's sustenance. So we're the innate infinite intelligence of the all that is, of God, of the universe. So we are intelligent and in that innate and infinite intelligence is a creative principle. We as the human design, the soul human design, the soul being, we have reflecting consciousness, so we're able to change or mitigate in our manifestations. We're able to reflect and make decisions that can affect the trajectory. But even a squirrel can't, because if they're not able to get the nuts one place, they'll go someplace else, right? It's about survival. So the squirrel's here just to be its squirrel self. We're here simply to manifest and express as a soul being and all that means. But that's first and foremost. So you are going to see a shift, and some people might think, oh, my God, it's selfish, or I'm being selfish, or I'm not used to this, or people are being more selfish. No, that was the original design, not to be enslaved. All these stories about enslavement and the creation of master and slave, power over, being underpowered, all of this narrative has been a perversion or misuse of power and therefore empowerment. And it comes because of that original separation, feeling separate from source, original source, that we had to have other sources or we had to do certain things to have that source of sustenance, whatever that was, be it food, money, a place to stay, or feeling safe. So many people are going to start feeling a direct connection to Source and getting their needs met from Source. Like, I've had some amazing things in my life, and I thank the people, obviously, that come through people, but I always thank Source or God. I thank God for expressing that through that person or letting that person be that vehicle or channel. Really important to do that, because everything is coming from that Source. All that is infinite intelligence, God, it's all coming from there through people and situations and their interconnectedness. They're just getting the awakening, to do something. And they're being the vehicle or the vessel, the channel. But we always want to connect it back to the original Source, because that's where our true power or empowerment is. The smaller sources or human sources or circumstantial sources, the job, the situation, the relationship, that can change. Those sources will not always be available. They may still be around us, but maybe they're busy, maybe they're tired, maybe they're sick, However, when we connect into the original Source, the main frame, the main frame of the network, the big satellite, all satellites come from. That's when our empowerment or our power gets less and less diluted. We get more potentized. And I do predict that people will be manifesting more from that Source through the mental realm and drawing in what they need just by visualizing it or envisioning it, much more than I'm taught we do now. It can be even instant manifestations of things. This is where we're going. This is the game changer. And I would say, it's not a little bit 2024, but I would say somewhere between 2025 and 2027. You're going to start seeing occurrences of this, maybe even miracle. Now, I've experienced that. I always ask for more of that. It's usually in a session or when I'm working with someone. I did manifest a car recently, which is amazing how it all came about. I've known of people that have manifested a beach house as a gift. So it's possible, it's plausible. It for sure can happen, but we have to align to the main source of power or empowerment and reclaim our abilities as creator beings, creator cells. We have creator cells within us biologically, and we are those creator cells of the world, the universe. So I do feel that these moving more into the mental realm, the realm of air and fire, has a lot to do with spirit, fire being spirit, as we have these, the nodal axis will be changing, and even the planetary changing. We're moving a lot into more air sign and fire sign placements. I do feel like that is a lot of the, it's just another lens or a way to interpret what's happening in the Akash, the changes that are taking place, so that we are more whole beings, galactic beings, interdimensional beings, right? Starseed beings. It's like recouping, reclaiming, recovering our interdimensional, transdimensional DNA history and roots. So there is a lot opening up for people right now. If you pause, and you hear our guests, a lot of our guests keep talking about you got to pause, you got to pull back, you got to contemplate, you got to slow down. Yes, on the denser physical level, we need to slow down, because the energies that are coursing through us and the world, the earth, the universe at this time, the very fabric of the earth, is speeding up. The earth has become much more electrical. We need to be more magnetic. We need to be more in the void, in the pause, to receive the impulses, the downloads, the messaging, really they're impulses. We need the electrical impulse. We need to receive the direction of we need to be a big basket, the Holy Grail, a big open chalice to receive. And it can be a bit of a challenge because on this dimension, when the earth plane, the game has been do, make happen. But that's when you're creating from wounding out of fear, or you're creating from an ego level. And so when you're creating from the spirit level, there is no time. It's a 11th hour or a holy instant. And so you move into that timelessness that can seem like forever time, or just timeless, like happening very quickly. There's a different concept. It's more about timing. So we really are getting this referencing and re-referencing, reframing of who and what we are. And that's part of the reason I say don't ask yourself, who am I? You are a spiritual being. Your spirit in form, with a soul. Your spirit in a form. Now ask yourself, where and how do I want to express this? How do you want to express you? Where and how? And that's going to lead you to the greatest places on your soul path. And so a lot is changing, in the next 5 to 10 years. There's a lot that's changing in the very fabric of our earthly nature and structures, and a lot is going to be coming through in the mental realm to make these changes, to move and to create different systems from which to experience and express through. Different ideologies. Some will be in altering the present system, but many will come in adjunct or parallel systems, parallel groups, parallel communities, parallel universes, if you will, within this universe. Different ways of living and being and expressing that ultimately will coalesce and have to find connection points in which to coexist. But until then, there will be this separating out. So we've got, okay, Bob saying, hiked hard, now more into the intuition. Yes. Propulsion sounds good, too, yes. Bob, we have intelligence of all that is. May I quote you on Facebook and Twitter? Oh, yeah, Bob, sure, yes. I promise to not call heaven a server farm. Yeah, Bob, I love that. Okay. All right, let's get to callers. 347-539-5122. Press 1 on the keypad. If you have a question, a comment, or you want a reading, 347-539-5122. Press 1 on the keypad, and then we have our guest coming on in a few minutes.
They put this
you're on
flag, those big ones, into the rafter. Into the rafter.
Okay, I think he's having his own. Hello? Yeah, hi.
Hi.
You're on air.
Listen, my name is Maria. I'm calling from New York.
Okay.
Please send a message from my husband. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, from your husband?
Yes.
Ah, Maria. Okay. Okay. First of all, he's definitely with you, and the one thing that I'm getting is you've had a lot of anxiety. There's something that you're anxious about. He's feeling that, and he's saying that he's there with you, not to feel anxious. There's also something about flowers on the windowsill, or putting flowers there, and being more around the flowers or garden, something that calms you. I'm also seeing in the background rosary beads with him. He is saying you are going to be making a trip. I do see a daughter, a younger female, that he's showing me that you need to, don't worry about her. She's doing fine, he says. And he's saying he is there with you, like you were there for him. Your daughter? Okay. You have a daughter? Older daughter, right?
One daughter, got it.
Yeah, okay. The
best message
well, older, not a teenager. The message I'm getting from him to tap in very quickly, because this is just a quick message. I feel his energy is wanting to soothe you and take care of you, and he's saying it's okay, it's going to be okay. You're going to go. he wants you to do something or more around the house or get out of the house. He's telling me you're waiting to go. I know you're going to go or you're waiting to go, but you need to do more. So he's really wanting to soothe you.
I'm going to die.
No. I feel you could be moving or going somewhere with your daughter, or your daughter's going to help you do something.
I got to go in Italy.
Yes, but he's saying you're waiting. I don't know why. He's saying you're waiting for something, you're waiting. The message he has for you is to relax, to calm down, to go out, to do more out of the house, to go to the garden. There's something about this garden. I don't know if it's a church garden. I don't know, but there's something about going out, seeing the flowers. And if you do more, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel more calm, he's saying. You're going to feel more calm.
I can talk to you, please. Give me 1 minute. I can explain it to you, please. The reason my association mi vera piacere, wanted me to comment on, I do the trip and everything. You know what happened? I got a water my ceiling, my living room, all over the sun, Sunday, it coming down a lot of water. They got a panel, they're not very good, and needed to fix the roof, all of the roof in the house. So I got
maybe that's why he's wanting you to get out. So again, I've got to go to see. We have other callers, but it feels like what he's showing me is there's a lot of concern, a lot of worry, but you have to wait to get things done. So I don't know if it's this what you're telling me with the roof, if you have to wait for that. So you need to get out of the house to take a break, like take a breath, go look at flowers, go look at, go. He says you love flowers. Yeah, because you're worrying too much. So yes, he's hearing your prayers and feeling your energy, and he's coming to calm you and saying, whatever it is you're going through, there's a lot of waiting involved. You have to wait for the approval, wait for the person. So he wants you to do other things, not just sit in the house and be upset and worry.
I said the rosary.
Yes. The rosary. Well, that's what he says, the rosary. But you got to also pray, do the rosary, but get out of the house also. All right, Maria, I will also put you in our prayer circle.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Big hug. Bye. Much peace.
Thank you. I love you. God bless you.
Lots of love and light. God bless. All right. Do we have any callers? 347-539-5122, and also anyone in the chat have any messages? Okay, we had other callers here. Well, then I'm going to see if our guest is on, and maybe we'll bring him on sooner. I can rest my throat a little bit from my clearing session. I'm doing my Bee Immune Throat Spray with propolis, Beekeeper's Naturals. So, okay. Oh, all right. Let's see. I think he is here. All right. So we do have Daniel on earlier with us. Okay, now I think we're going to open it up to questions, relevant questions. Don't ask him to do your whole chart or something so, convoluted. Let's be mindful here. But he will be taking callers' questions, as will I. So we'll kind of tag team here and just play it by ear and see what's going on. So, for those of you that are just joining us, we have Daniel Fiverson with us, Evolutionary Astrologer. He's also in the Awakenings group on Facebook. We'll get him to give you his details as how to connect with him. And let's bring Daniel on. Hey, Daniel. Welcome.
Hey, Michelle. How are you?
Hey. Good to talk to you. Good to connect. With all this change, I'm very curious as to what you're seeing. But before we start, let's just let people know a little bit about you and what is evolutionary astrology, because I know there's different, adjuncts of astrology, different disciplines or focuses within that discipline of astrology. So if you could give us just a little bit of a background before we dive in. I know you're trained in the Jeffrey Wolf Green School as well. But let's just give people a little bit of a background of you, and then what exactly is evolutionary astrology, and how is it a little bit more? How would you say it's different from mundane astrology?
Well, I think it's absolutely parallel to everything you've been talking about, because it's a recognition. It's a recognition that we are soul entities, that we are part of something much greater than ourselves. And it is that interaction with our higher self, if you would, or our soul. There's so many ways that we can frame it. That really is what we're about. That we're not the physical bodies with blood and guts and bones. We're energy. We're spirit. And it's a type of astrology that actually deals with that level of our of who we are. And it's very contextual. The work that I do is contextual. It's not everybody knows pretty much a lot of sun sign astrology, but we're not necessarily always our sun sign. And it's a reason why a lot of people a lot of people just fall away from astrology because they say, "Well, I'm not really like that." Because we're much more complex. We're much more complex than that. The baby that was born, that was in the incubator next to us, 99 times out of 100 had a 100, had a major different life path than we did, and it's because of the consciousness of who we are. There's many layers of consciousness, if you would. And without sounding like it's judgmental, because it's not. We move along an evolutionary path of learning to be more conscious, but it's really about our soul learning about itself through us. And we're just down here, boots on the ground, having the actual human life experiences, but it's our soul which is progressing. So it's kind of how it works.
Yeah. Boy, that's so true, though, the level of consciousness and also the level or layer of, what octave or harmonic of a certain sign is being expressed. Is it the lower, the mid, the higher, and we could say also the planetary influences. How are we handling that energy or that power? How are we handling that aspect of ourselves, however you want to bring it back? And, of course, we can sometimes not handle something so well or be in a lower harmonic, and then we can, as you say, evolve. We can grow and become more aware, more understanding, more awake, more conscious, and then access more consciousness. Now, is this similar, would you say, to, because I study soul-centered astrology, are there similarities overlaying?
I'm not exactly sure what soul-centered is, but I'm sure that it is. The way that our charts work, is the consciousness that's brought to it. When you look at a chart is a two-dimensional, thing. It's time and space. But there's a third dimension that's brought to that chart, kind of as a perpendicular coming into the center, which is the consciousness that's brought to it. The example I like to use is, perhaps somebody with the moon in Pisces. That's somebody who could be an alcoholic, or could be someone who's a highly intuitive and a poet. But the chart doesn't tell you that. The chart will not tell you that. The chart will only show you what the archetypes are, but not how that archetype is working. One of the issues I've always had for many years with astrology in general is that it's too narrowly defined. People say, well, Aries is this and Taurus is that. Well, it has no bounds on either end of the spectrum. It can be from something that's purely spiritual to something that's purely, earthbound, and anywhere in between. But the thing is, we are all a mix. We all have a different mix of each of these archetypes within us, and some of them we have worked on for many lifetimes, and some of them are the lessons that we're working on in this lifetime. And so we're all moving along this evolutionary spectrum, this line of development to really learn about who we are.
I agree, and the emotional aspect. So I feel once we know more about, let's say, within our chart, these planetary aspects, if you will, we can understand where sometimes, like you mentioned, is it aspirational, inspired thinking, or does it go into, delusion, illusion, or the isms, alcoholism and, drugs? We can kind of look out for that and say, I could be aware, I need to be aware of this, or how do I channel or manage this energy, or how do I access this energy? And so I do feel it can be a great tool to knowing ourselves, right? What are our pitfalls, so to speak, and what are our natural or easy gifts, I guess.
Yeah, yes. It's also retroactive in a way, Michele, because it shows us, why we have done what we have done, and why we have accomplished certain things and succeeded in certain areas, and maybe not done as well in others. What it can really tell us is to not hate ourselves for whatever happened, to forgive ourselves and recognize that it was just a lesson that we needed, that we had to stumble and fall and pick ourselves up in order to learn that to do that process, if nothing else.
Yeah. Boy, that reminds me, and talk about showing where you're going, because I don't know if you knew this, but a lot of people knew, I did acting and modeling early in my career, or my life here, I guess, career life, whatever, as one of my careers, but I would always, and even my agent would tell me, Michele, to think a certain way. Instead of hobnobbing with the people that could get me the work, like if I would find, let's say, usually the makeup artist or somebody, crew, they would be reading books like me or interested in astrology. Everybody liked psychic, everybody wanted to know more about that, and then, they would talk about what they were reading or situation. Well, I would naturally gravitate to that. Now, mind you, if the executive or the photographer was talking that way, I would have gravitated to them, but most of the time they didn't, or they didn't want to talk about it as much. And so I when I was supposed to be schmoozing and hobnobbing to get more work, I was with the people that not necessarily could get me work, and my agent would tell, she'd call me on it, one of them in particular, every single time, and I would try to remember. I'd go, okay, remember, when you show up here, you're flown here, okay, talk to this person more, and I would try to, and then it would ever happen. And then I remember one of my astrology teachers doing my chart and said, there is no way you would have not done that. There is no way in your chart that you would have cared about these other surface things, no matter how much you try. Because, Daniel, is almost like the interest, something came over me. I would very much start out, okay, Michele, you're going to ask him this, talk about this. And I would a little bit. And then, of course, I'd be in the makeup chair having a great conversation about past lives or astrology. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I'm like, oh, my God. And we'd talk and talk. And then we'd be in the middle of a conversation. And, okay, when I get back from set, we talk about it more. We go to dinner as a crew, and who would I want to sit by? That person to have that conversation.
Right.
So is that kind of what you're saying in a way? Like there's like a certain formatting or something? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes. The planet Venus is, it's lots of things. It's what we're attracted to. It's sex. It's money. It's everything that's important to us and essential. But it's magnetism. And we are attracted to people, and we're attracted to people and places with which we have a magnetic a frequency. There's a magnetic attraction between us. That's who we're drawn to, and those are the places that we're drawn to, and the ideas and books and everything. It really comes from that. That's the true law of attraction. But that law of attraction is rooted in in relationship with ourselves. It really depends on how we feel about ourselves. Do we love ourselves? Do we hate ourselves? I have yet to meet somebody who either loved themselves unconditionally or hated themselves unconditionally. We're all somewhere in the middle. There's parts of ourselves we're not proud of, or we're working on, and there's parts of ourselves that we like to get on the rooftop and scream about. But it is that magnetic attraction that really pulls us through life, because man plans and God laughs. We can lay down all these intentions, and I'm certainly very much believe in intentions, but we direct ourselves in a certain direction, and then all of a sudden something just comes right out of left field at us, and we look at it and we're just sucked into it. We just recognize we weren't looking for it, we didn't expect it, and all of a sudden it's just right there. And that's the way it works. There's this serendipity to life that is, to me, is the fascination that we haven't got it all figured out, and we have to be open. We can't assume that we're going to have this, set all these intentions and that they're all going to come to pass, because in some cases we may be setting ourselves up for disappointment, which is a setback. You understand what I'm saying? What I'm trying to express. We have to be open.
We have to be open. So in a way, you're saying this is, in a way, it's like a guiding or navigating principle, or you could use the chart or the aspects, the signs and planetary positions, within the house is going to highlight certain areas of our life or certain experiences. Kind of in a way, it sounds like ultimately, no matter what, that's the kind of maybe the override.
Yes, to a great degree, that really is true. And as we get older, we begin to see the patterns. We begin to recognize what it is that has become important to us, because by and large, this is what's happening to the whole world right now. It's really what we're all going through, is recognizing what's essential, and it's really the core. From my perspective, it's the core of what's happening between Pluto and Uranus. It's just directing us towards a future horizon point, if you would, that is inevitable, in one way or another. But we have to just we're caught in a tractor beam to some degree. I know I'm not expressing myself, and I apologize. But it's very magnetic, and we are in a magnetic field, and we respond to it from our subconscious more than our conscious awareness.
That I definitely agree with, yes. So I do feel in a way it's aligning more to that. Now, I do feel that the aspects, and I kind of want to dive into this, whether it's the definitely the nodal, access points, or and obviously we're talking about the eclipses, those cycles that happen as redirection or reorientation. It seems that the understanding, like how you and I are talking right now, that's going to be more of an emphasis, or taking more into account. Almost like I want to say, it seems that the way we're being redirected, and you tell me what you think, based on the astrology, and we can dive into that we're going to be less able to override, maybe even veto, override some of, or in a way, our true nature. Let's just put it that way. It feels like we're like this peeling, dismantling, emotionally clearing, that, that the overriding, because I do feel there's been a lot of that on this earth plane. And I don't know if you see it with people that come to you. I know I see it with people that come to me, that they've just overridden their lives by what people have told them, or what's going to make them more successful or happy. And then a lot of times they get to a certain point and they're like, oh my God, I always loved this and I was drawn to this, but my father told me this makes more money, or my mom told me go in this direction, or when I went to school I was told, this is better than that. Do you see something like that, Daniel, in the astrology, if you want to dive into whether nodal axis or also the eclipses? I know we're going to dive into the eclipses, particularly the lunar eclipse on May 5th. you feel that that's a part of what's happening?
Yeah,
you know,
I think you've described it very well. But you know, we all come in with social conditioning. We come in conditioned by our parents, by our peers, by where we live, our friends growing up, and those, from my perspective, is what we have brought in with us from the past. We're still working with what came before, but we're moving forward, and in most cases, away from it. But we can't move away until we recognize what it is we're moving away from. So we have to experience it. We're like, you know, you talk about emotions. Emotions is water. It's our emotional body. And water has to fill up every space it passes through in order to move on. And we have to do the same thing. We can't skip over. You know, there's lots of spiritual bypass in the world, and we could do a whole show on it. It's become one of my favorite, you know, topics of things that I'm really upset about. But we can't skip anything. We have to move forward step by step and move through every situation and every experience and fully engage with it and fully become absorbed in it. In order to move past it and learn from it. And they don't all have to be, you know, difficult. But the challenge is what really, you know, moves us forward. When things are too easy, we don't make any progress. So, you know, there's a value to, you know, to the squares and the oppositions and you know, that's people who have too many trines in their chart. Everybody says, oh, I have this great grand trine, and they get all, you know, excited about it. Well, the grand trines can make you into a couch potato because trines, everything just seems to happen or pass unnoticed. When you have a square, you know something's going on, and you have to respond to it one way or another. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times of that square to happen in your natal chart for you to realize how you need to work with it. But that's why we're here. The Earth is a soul school, and you know, we're here an infinite number of lifetimes. And in each one, we do learn something. We do move forward. Some we make more progress than others, but we're always moving forward. We're always moving along that evolutionary trajectory, you know, in baby steps.
Yeah, those baby. Everything is steps. Everything is steps. So let's talk a bit about what you see with this wonderful Scorpio full moon lunar eclipse that's taking place, which I do believe is the last one in Scorpio. It for a while, right? That it's the completion or culmination of that Taurus Scorpio axis for a while. Is that, I believe?
Yes. The nodes are nearing the end of their transit through Taurus and Scorpio, and they're going to be Aries and Libra. You know, I have the dates here. I let me tell you exactly. Let me look here for a second. In July, we're going to see a shift. So. We're
what do you think of that? That's kind of amazing, right? That's to me, a big shift from going from Taurus Scorpio, which is all that fixed, a certain type of focused energy, and then you know, of course, we'll go into the Aries Libra. But is it ending with that culmination point? Any thoughts of what would be helpful to be working on or focused on or noticed individually, and then what do you see collectively?
Well, again, we have to work with the elements as we encounter them, and the fixed energy is important because it has given us the ability to get grounded, and it has given us the ability to really kind of slow down a little bit and you know, take stock and see what's going on. The cardinal energy that's coming in is as you said, is going to be a major shift, and it may be hard to adjust to initially. You know, especially when Neptune moves into Aries. You know, we're seeing some major outer planet shifts in the next couple of years. and they are going to be difficult transitions. Right now Neptune is in Pisces, that its own nice, watery sign, very fluid, very intuitive, very deep. But in Aries, it's going to be entirely different. And that shift, that's actually like crossing the ascendant. It's crossing from the last zodiacal sign archetype to the first, to the primary one, going from total awareness, so to speak, from total openness and sensuality and just emotional fullness, if you would, to this impulsive, non-cognitive kind of Aries is totally non-cognitive. We come into the world, as human beings, we come into the world with our eyes wide open, head first, not even knowing if somebody will be there to catch us. That's a perfect Aries image. And this is what we're moving into, and Neptune's going to be there for quite some time. So there's really going to be some dramatic changes. I'm quite uncomfortable with a lot of the world events, a lot of what's going on in the world. I see the, out into the distance where it's headed, but we're moving through the narrows, Michelle. We're moving through this space.
Oh,
where,
I know.
everybody's hoping things are going to get better and easier, and I just don't see that happening in the immediate future. And so we have to adjust. But it's whipping us into shape. It is making us aware of issues that maybe have gone on for 6,000 years or more. We're having to deal with patriarchy and just a lot of the abuse in the world. So people are acting out in their own way, some way of either holding on to what it is that they need to feel their own sense of self, and others who are working, overtime, really to begin to heal some of this. And it's a huge divisive polarity that we're seeing everywhere, politically, socially, economically, geographically. It's huge. So it's kind of like the atom splitting apart in order to reform into something new. There's this huge kind of like cells dividing. I'm not sure how else to describe it, but we're right smack in the middle of it, and we're caught. It's almost as if we're standing on the street and there was an earthquake down the street, and our legs are spreading as the street spreads apart. Where do we fall? So
I also think, to your point, when we talked about the octaves or whatever, the lower, mid, and higher, let's say, of signs or planetary, connection and connecting to that type of power, I feel like a lot of what's happening is, and you talked about baby steps, is the lower level people acting from either wounding or reacting or from ego, and trying to access the soul. But it's a baby step to what is the soul. I think some people are really starting to feel the power, but it's not yet really empowered, or power from empowerment. It's still usury, power over.
Right.
So I think we have to live or go through that.
Until we're saturated with an experience, we haven't learned anything from it, and we're now moving through that saturation phase where we're being saturated with all this misogyny and all these things that we know are not good for human development, but we have to go through it because there's still too many souls working it out who haven't yet come to the realization that they need. Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's it, the acting it out. Yeah, and I think people, now I don't know if you go into this from an astrological point of view, you probably do, but the vibration, so we don't have anything on the planet that isn't, there's got to be law of correspondence, enough corresponding energy, enough vibration, resonance, coherence, the thought forms from there, then the physical form, So I like what you're saying. Yeah, a lot are still working it out, and so a lot of what we have is still here, or it's coming up and out a lot more. A lot culminating, coming out more and more extreme. To, I think, not just see it, but to somehow work it out. I mean, there is something on this planet that things have to be, worked out or lived out, it seems.
Right. Well, when we have an illness in our body, we develop a fever. And it's the fever that heals us. And that's exactly what we're going through. We're going through this, I don't want to say this mass kind of spiritual COVID experience, but COVID is a perfect example of what has been running through our society, where this disease is running rampant, and even though they say the pandemic is over, it's not. And still plenty of people, getting sick. And but the point being is that we have to have the fever in order to heal ourselves, and we're in that fever state.
Right.
It's Aries.
Well, it's
Aries
interesting too.
Aries
yeah, that's true. And it's interesting too that there's I read this book. It's something Dispelling Wetico, Paul Levy or Levy, L-E-V-Y, and it talks about the contagion or the mental virus, the virus of the mind. And we know how ideas are contagious. They're contagion, for better or worse. Right. And I think that's another thing, which, by the way, not to jump ahead, I'm just wondering, I don't know, that Gemini, well, we're going to have, maybe we have a Venus going into Gemini. I don't know, there seems to be some kind of disseminating factor of ideas. I don't know what you notice that planetarily. I suppose on an individual to mass level, that could even be as Pluto going into Capricorn, rooting things out, bringing things up. But I do feel that's one thing we're all going to have to look at individually with ourselves and connecting to our personal truth or deeper understanding, and what we're herded to do, what we're doctrines or talking points or narratives that we're given that we just take and say, okay, that's it, I believe that, when we haven't brought it inward. So I think that's working. I don't know if you, where would you see that, or how do you see that working out astrologically?
Well, it's Jupiter. It's our belief systems. And no question, it's Mercury. First of all, Mercury is retrograde, and it's a difficult retrograde because Pluto is also about to go retrograde on Monday, and we're in the middle of two eclipses. I mean, we are passing through Scylla and Charybdis. I mean, this is an odyssey, literally, that we're moving through. This is Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Very difficult, but ideas are what we think is just an idea in our head. It's only true because we think it's true, and it's the same thing with the belief. Beliefs really can be nothing more than a personal opinion that's been aggrandized into a way of being. There's a difference between Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is truly unconditional love. It is embracing everything. Neptune is so hard to encompass because it is all inclusive and it includes us. We're smack in the middle of it, so we can't get any Aquarius Uranian kind of objectivity and get it arm's length with it. So we're stuck in the middle. But Jupiter is clearly our beliefs, and we're seeing a clash of beliefs. The people who want to take away all the abortion pills and ban abortion, that they believe that that's their sacred duty to work towards that. And there's no way that you can convince them it's not. The United States has been going through a Neptune opposition now for about 6 or 7 years. And that Neptune opposition is the clash of beliefs. It happened during the American Civil War, we're really moving through repeats of history.
Yeah,
we're coming up to astrological influences that mirror the American Revolution. So history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and we are experiencing that rhyme.
Mhm. So I feel that's a good, because yes, I do feel things are going to get a lot, quote unquote, maybe you could call it worse or extreme, whether within people individually, within themselves, of being pulled in different directions or ideology, whether swinging from one pole to the next, and definitely it getting acted out in relationships and groups, having these factions. Now, what's interesting, and again, I think it's going to be, many years of this and very, a lot of hardship and extreme, but also a lot of innovation through this and growth. Because even if you look at the whole idea of more of a quote-unquote Aquarian age, which, as you know, the lower level of Aquarius is cults, is this division. It is my way or the highway. It is shunning, ostracizing. So to get to that point, if you look at it at a soul level where more people are able to live more individually, collectively, small groups, maybe more, tribal, or I don't mean it in the sense of cliquey, but to have more
self-organizing groups. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we've got to go through this. Because I do feel, and it's interesting, I watch a lot of, and listen to and watch a lot and do a lot of research on of varying factions and groups of people. I will even listen to some people that their beliefs make me cringe, but I always interestingly find some truth or some interconnection. And that's probably because my Mercury and Sun is in the 11th house. I've got Pluto conjunct my Sun, and in Uranus conjunct my Mercury in Leo. But it's in the 11th house, so I can be with differing people and opinions. I can be with very, very diverse. I can even be with people that are racially against me and have a chat with them, and I'm fine because that's their belief and whatever. But I do feel that at some point there is going to have to be places and spaces, like self-organizing, not just groups, but cities, maybe even parts of states like we have now, because I do feel the divide is, what do you think of that? Do you see that in this? I think that the divide is going to get so extreme that is what it's going to take. Ultimately, in the whole scheme of things, I think it's going to be a better system. But in between...
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think of that, Daniel?
Well, first of all, we get along so well because I'm also an 11th house Mercury. My Mercury's in Cancer in the 11th house, but it's same way.
Oh, you understand. I love it.
But what you're describing is absolutely true. But the concern that I have is what's going to cause the fractures that's going to necessitate the reassembly, you see?
Well, I have that concern too, and you can see it brewing. I definitely agree. It's like we are going to be in the muck and mire till we get to, the
and there's
happy
another
place.
Huge factor. There's another huge factor called Vladimir Putin and China and North Korea and Iran. Okay. We live in a vacuum. We have never had a war on American soil. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we will. I've seen the the channeled info, and the big three coming together. By the way, will be China, Russia, and the United States.
And Biden's threatening them. Biden has told Russia that we have this special nuclear technology in Ukraine, and they better leave it alone. I mean, like what is he taunting them? I don't understand. In the meantime, the Chinese on a daily basis are rehearsing invading Taiwan. So,
but you know what? I got to tell you, I think all that is distraction, because I have clients that are very, let's just say in very high levels, you would read about them or the people that they're working with, whether governmentally or in finance and, investments in the large companies. And I remember in the 90s, everything was Chinese, and I was living in Encinitas. So much was being bought up by the Chinese, and of course we know that we owe China a lot of money, governmentally. Because I remember when people were learning Spanish and French, and then all of a sudden with my clients, I'm like hearing Chinese, and they're, Mandarin, and they're sending their kids to, Mandarin schools where they're, learning all in China because that's where things are going. And then at a certain point, I started hearing Russian. And what I was told, and that not just the Chinese, but the Russians, because in Russia is the, number one place on the black market of billionaires, has the most made billionaires, off the black market. So, and of course, everything has to be funneled through Putin. Right. You don't make money and get to keep it. But not only have they helped out the United States, but a lot of businesses are Russian-owned here. They just change the names because because of what the American people, we still are kind of in the Cold War mentality of fearing Russia. But our government does business with everyone. So I think this kind of stuff is a smoke and mirror to keep us more confused and more divided. Because if you look at the Kaballah, Bilderberg, whatever, they're Republican and they're everything. They're Republican, they're Democrat. Right now the Democrats, the woke, they're getting the bad thing. I remember in the 90s when it was the Republicans because of rap music and trying to censor. Also, I wasn't around during McCarthy, obviously, but I do remember, researching, reading about that. So I feel that all of this, I feel like the big cosmic joke, Daniel, is going to be when people realize that they really got not only sold a bill of goods, but that all this believing in left and right and Tory and liberal and Labor Party, all this division has suited, because what it does is it keeps us disempowered. It keeps us not connected to the true source of our power empowerment and making decisions. We align with certain factions thinking they're going to save us, and then they don't. And, I mean, I had clients and friends that were so, I'm not, pro one or the other, I'm not stating, because to me all politicians really are about the same, because they're not really running the show. But I had so many clients and friends, and I had some good friends that were Trump was walking on water and floating, he was Moses on the hill and whatever. I mean, it was just, and then when he came back and started promoting, and I got to say V because we're going to upload this to YouTube, and I can say anything I want on BTR apparently for many years, but now that we're putting these shows on YouTube, they censor. But, of course, he has some money invested in the V, and he took the V and liked the V and told other people to take the V. All of a sudden, and I just politely pointed out, I said, well, it's just interesting that he was, the best thing since sliced bread, and now you're condemning or something came to him. And I go, and let me ask you this as because then we do have a couple of questions in the chat I want to get to. Do you feel, and whether you want to call it the Kali Yuga, whether you want to call it the old Piscean paradigm or the low level of that, I want to get your take on this. I feel that we still are in the vestiges of idols, that we don't see our own individual empowerment, and we're still outsourcing our decisions and empowerment to those that we feel are going to save us, like the idols, like the stars, reality stars, celebrities, sports stars, government, I guess what you would call, authority figures. I don't know if you would call that more Capricorn or the old Piscean era. I don't know. But it feels like that we're going to have some stingers, to your point of things getting more intense, to wake people up to go, I was lied to. That I have to vet people better and not just make decisions by surface concerns.
I agree with 100%. I agree 100% with what you're saying. You know, Pluto works three different ways. Pluto's about empowerment. So the way that it generally works,
I didn't know that.
Pluto's about empowerment. I mean, it was discovered when atomic energy was discovered. We work with Pluto in one of three ways. Either we stand in our power, we learn to live in our own power, we give our power away, or we allow someone else to take our power. And generally, that's how Pluto works in many charts. And again, it depends on the consciousness of the individual of how they're working with their Pluto. You know, what was their early child? You know, I'm very Jungian in the sense of what was their childhood experience? What is it? What is the karmic? What are the karmic lessons they brought in with them? The social conditioning, the friends that they hung out with in middle school. You know, that have taught them to be who they are as adults.
So, I was just contemplating that the other day. By the way, the middle school, you can tell a lot. Because we really don't change that much from middle school. That adolescence is the defining template there of, so how much the culture, the society, societal beliefs, the archetypal energy, how are you managing that? And I so agree with you on that. So Pluto, do you feel that's the transforming, or you say power? That's true. Pluto deals with power.
Pluto is the soul. Pluto is our connection to our soul. Pluto's hope is our DNA. It's our DNA. It's the karma we've brought with us. It's the curriculum of lessons that we are working on in this lifetime. That's all Pluto.
Wow. So it really is to some degree an inner revolution, though. It sounds like by what you're saying. The first thing I look at in a chart, I don't. The entry point for a natal chart for me is not the sun and moon or the ascendant. It's Pluto. By the time I'm done analyzing Pluto, I've got the whole chart. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I love Pluto, by the way. It can be, but I don't know. There's something. Very profound and definite.
Because you're centered in your own power. It's why you are who you are in the world, because you are that power within you. And I would imagine you've had a lot of lessons where you have learned to hold on to it or to take it back.
Yeah, or I didn't realize I had it for so long, but other people did externally. So I had to learn how to, that's what this, Pluto conjunct my sun in the 11th. It's like, that's what this is. Even as a small child,
Right,
you can imagine with the family. Right. I was teaching them that, or they were coming to me for answers. Okay, we got a question. What is important to look at for the next 6 months? Is there... looking at, let's see, any big things to look at? I think by what I'm hearing for you say, Dan, it sounds like I keep feeling, we're being prepared for something or positioned. And maybe these eclipses are doing that, like some kind of positioning or preparation. I don't know. I'll leave you with that, with the question.
Yeah, eclipses occur to rebalance energy. Eclipses are either breakdown or breakthrough events for each of us. It can be a total breakdown or it can be a breakthrough. And it's because the eclipses, because they're on the lunar nodes, which is really the pathway from the past to the future, the eclipses are getting that energy unstuck. The energy that's been stuck is being released. And when that energy, it's like a volcano in a sense, an earthquake. When the ground is shaking, beneath your feet, it's frightening, and that's what eclipses can do. But when things move, that's when we actually move forward, or something happens in our lives which literally propels us forward. Something that maybe we have kind of wished for, or hoped for, or prayed for, or intended. And all of a sudden, it comes to us something about it comes to us out of left field. We weren't even thinking about it, recently, and all of a sudden it's just there. Or it could be, something, relationship falling apart, somebody who we love passing. People come onto the planet and leave the planet during eclipse season. Donald Trump was born under an eclipse. It's a perfect example. And people leave the planet at the same time in this 4-week period. The portals are open. But eclipses are necessary. The lunar nodes are karmic trajectory from the past to the future. And the past is generally something we accept as written in stone. It's not. The past is not something we're stuck with. We can often reimagine the challenges of the past and recognize how that helped us grow and created very positive, things in our lives when we worked with it. The future hasn't happened yet. The future is a probable future. It's very much like Jane Roberts' Seth material. I don't know if you remember that from back in the 70s or 80s. But it's kind of like the North Node is kind of like the train where trains come into a roundhouse and the train can go turn in different directions from that point. That's what the North Node is. It's a probable future. It's been seeded, it's been fertilized, but it hasn't been watered and been given sunlight, so to speak. We have to nurture that North Node potentiality. But it really is all resolved in the present. We're talking about the moon. The lunar nodes are lunar. So the past, the south node is a composite of our past moons, our past emotional natures, and the north node is where our soul is intending us to go. It's really a soul destination. But it's through the moon in our current life, the moon in our natal chart that we're born with, that we resolve both sides of that trajectory, where we rework the past and re-image it to recognize that it's what we needed to move forward and to be able to identify the future that really is important to us, that is the one that we need, and to work towards it emotionally. Our intentions manifest with emotional investment. We have to invest those intentions with our emotions. And, often the intentions are invested with negative emotions. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. It's not going to happen. Somebody else is going to get that job. That kind of stuff. When we can bring, a really strong, positive emotional content to those intentions, that's when the manifestations occur. But it's all done through our moon. We have to come to terms with our own emotional nature, our ego. I'm going to come back to ego. Ego's not a bad word. Ego is strictly our self-image. It's the way we see ourselves. It's the lens on the projector of our life force. If that projector has no lens, it's just unintelligible image on the screen. When we put that lens on it and focus that energy, all of a sudden everything becomes clear. So that's what the moon does for us. It's the most conscious part of us, because moment to moment it tells us if we're safe or we're in danger. No other planet tells us anything like that. It's the moon. So
over the years I've gotten a lot more focus on the moon. I don't know. I feel like more in many ways the moon aspect of being. I feel like can really tell a lot and guide us a lot, what
right.
sign and house.
So that's why the lunar nodes are so powerful. And that's why eclipses are powerful, because the lunation is occurring on one of the lunar nodes.
Yeah. So it's more of the nodes. It's really more of a I don't know, location, right, or a spotlight. It sounds like a spotlight on a particular area, maybe? Is that, how would you describe?
Yeah, I think it's it's a sketch, I guess is a good way to do it. It's a sketch that's in progress. The South Node is something that is, really been painted, and we feel we're stuck with it in some way. But when we go back and look at it from a different perspective, all of a sudden we see things that are like hidden in the architecture that we didn't notice before. So they're both. It's very fluid. The moon waxes and wanes. The moon is very fluid. It animates and withdraws. And so did the nodes in a sense. They kind of flash and move in and out of awareness.
And Daniel, how would you say in interpreting that South Node? There's so many interpretations. I kind of feel you're integrating or bringing it towards the North Node or expressing it in maybe a new way. But what could you share with people about that nodal axis of and especially because now this lunar eclipse is on the South Node. So what are we doing with that energy, or what is happening with the South Node? I mean, some people say, you've got to go to the North Node, but the South Node is still present and is an aspect of us. I guess what's a way to look at that and interpret?
We have to embrace it. We have to come to terms with it and understand what our past was really about. We have to get objective with it. We have to bring Uranus in, and it happens that Uranus is on the sun. It's opposite the moon at this eclipse. So it's Uranus is our objectivity. It's our higher mind, if you would. It's the ideas and thoughts and inclinations that seem to come out of left field. And most of them we dismiss because we think they're irrational, they're impossible, that's crazy. That's what Pallas Athena does. Pallas Athena is known as the octave transformer. Her strategies, her wisdom, she can take those seemingly irrational things that come to us through Uranus and pull them down to Mercury. Uranus is the higher mind. Mercury is the lower rational mind. She's able to hand them off to Mercury and strategize them and make them, into something that works. And we all have Pallas Athena in our charts. Look to see where your Pallas Athena is, and in relationship to your Mercury or Uranus, or what house it's in or what sign it's in, and it will kind of give you an idea of how to work with these things that seem impossible, but yet you're just dying to do them, but you don't know how to go about it.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you sense or see, or potentials with this last part of this Taurus Scorpio axis with the eclipses, and as we go May 5th into that Scorpio full moon lunar eclipse? Anything we have a question, highlight the next 6 months, anything, I guess also you need to look at where it's happening in your chart, but any thoughts on that or suggestions as, preparation or what could be coming up for people individually and or in the collective?
Yeah, well, it's a Scorpio moon, so the first thing that we need to do is to take back our power. We have to recognize that we are powerful individuals, and that we can determine the outcome of what's going to happen to us if we work with it and we learn how to do it. I think that's the first thing. But a lunar eclipse is a full moon, and any full moon is about finding balance. It's about reconciling, the two ends of those extremes and bringing them together. It's about being flexible, meeting others halfway, letting our emotions come from our heart space, not our head space, and listening. It's the format of it is Aries and Libra. This full moon is not Aries and Libra, but all full moons are an Aries and Libra archetype. And it's about Libra. It's about listening. It's about listening to what others are saying, listening to what our heart is telling us. Being open and not projecting so much, but receiving, being receptive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And to find that unity and diversity and to allow change to occur with that fear of what the outcome would be, to let go, to stop straining for some expectation of what should be or what must be or what they think is, to just surrender to what is and go with the flow and be open and just stay in the moment. And not worry, because it's all working out. The prophecies, the Native American prophecies are telling us, have been telling us for years that this is coming down, and there is a pathway through it, but it's through our heart, and we will each of us will find our individual pathway if we surrender to what our heart is asking us to do and let go of what our head is saying. That's my take on it.
Well, I like that. I like you said unity, because it does sound like, again, if we go back to the individual, that as individuals we comprise the collective, when you're saying that getting that other, listen and get the other point of view and bring into that unity. So maybe that could be a good focus for people, even the next 6 months, or even if you can't do it that long, just do it for a month,
Right.
To try to really
we become who we hang out with as well. So if you hang out with Fox News, guess who you're going to become. We have to be discriminating in terms of where we put our attention and where we put our intentions as well.
Yeah, I would agree. But be willing. Like, I can listen to Fox News and I can be okay with it. Their opinion, some things bring charge, but so does other news. I think it goes back to what you said about listening, being able to listen and find where's the bits of unity, where can we work together, like a board of directors. There's going to be times that we disagree, but where can we find the common ground? I think that's going to be, I don't know, next steps. I don't know how soon. But I do feel like we can get a jump on that and look at the common ground. Where is the common ground? Otherwise, we're going to stay in the, factions. Well, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because people conglomerate by or commune even by what resonates more.
Okay. So, what the medicine that I prescribe for everybody? Go out and spend some time where there are no city lights, and just look up at the wonder of the sky, because it is more healing. Nature is more healing than any pharmaceutical drug that's valued for whatever reason. Nature is the greatest healer of all, but find some place where there's no, and it's hard. In most major American cities, the lights are on 24 hours a day. Yeah, and so artificial light. Right. So go out to Yosemite. Go someplace where it's dark at night, and it's awesome. I mean, you just feel like you're in awe of the wonder of the firmament. Yeah.
So true. I'm lucky so we don't have a lot of lights where I live, and I remember when I was going to tough time, my little doggy, which did pass during the eclipse. I knew it was coming. I'm like, no, it was with the Capricorn. But I would go outside and just look up at like 3 a.m. I'd look up at the stars and just could see the Big Dipper and all. I would just. It was so healing. Gosh. And then this past week, I was in Anza, Borrego, high desert, where there was a lot of stars present. So I agree. Yeah, look at the stars. Just any kind of nature, if people can get in, can greatly help.
We are those stars. They're not up in the sky, Michele. They're inside. They're inside of us.
They're in. Oh, yes. Good point, Daniel. Yes. So we're looking at this other aspect. Oh, love that.
Right.
The stars. Yeah. That's an important point. Wow. Yeah. We're them. That's inside. You also have we're winding down here. Let's see. Somebody is saying, my moon is in Cancer, Sun in Libra. Sounds like I'm in the middle of this murky mixture. Well, it doesn't have to be murky. Jay Styling in the chat. Yeah, it doesn't have to be murky. Although you're going to have little Mars touching your Cancer. Daniel, in closing, you also tell us a little bit about the astrological weather report and what that is and how people can get that. I know that's something that you do. You sometimes post it to Awakenings and the group. I always love when you do. But what is that, and how can people access that?
Sure, thank you. It's kind of how I've branded my public work. I do forecasts sometimes on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, major celestial events. I do YouTubes on my YouTube channel, and my YouTube address is at Daniel Fiverson. My email address is daniel@evolutionaryastrologer.net, and evolutionaryastrologer.net is my website, and I post all of my YouTubes, I post all the videos and all the forecasts that I do. I post transcripts of the YouTubes for people who aren't into YouTube, who don't want to take the time to listen to it. They can just read the transcripts. And I put this information out there almost on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Wow.
I call it the astrological weather report because it's how I see, the celestial influences is like weather. And we check in and what's the weather today, what's the temperature going to be. Well, that's kind of what my work is. I kind of talk about what is the astrological temperature and what are we looking at.
I love that. Now you also do private charts also, right? Individual.
I do personal consultations on Zoom. They're 90 minutes long. You can read about my work on my website, evolutionaryastrologer.net. There's feedback there from clients and their experience with the readings that I have done for them. There's a lot of information that you can find out about yourself, and I can help you. It's not about me. It's about you. You have to want it. You have to want to learn about it, and I will help you learn not only about yourself, but a little bit of astrology along the way.
Beautiful. Yay. Okay. God, I've really enjoyed this. Come back again. Don't wait so long. This is great. I might have to re-listen to this. Sometimes I re-listen to the podcast what the guests have said when I'm driving around. So I love that, too. The stars are inside us, and what you were saying about the unity. And I never looked at that way also about the moon, that you're getting that Aries Libra, activating that. So I think a lot of people will probably be re-listening to this podcast because a lot of good info and insight. So.
Thank you, Michele, for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. Honestly, I enjoyed. I always love talking to you. It makes me feel just as good as you're feeling. So it's a mutual admiration society.
I agree. I took some notes. Learned some things. I'm going to relist because I like what you were saying about the unit and seeing different points of view and. Because I think, like you, looking at that Jungian or the psychological, it's going to be easier for us to do that collectively if we all start doing that individually, in our own lives.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty powerful. Right. And then what you said also about Pluto, and what was the other thing?
Pluto is going to be a major player for quite some time. It's about to move into Aquarius. It's going to go retrograde on Monday. And in October, it's going to go back into Capricorn until the end of the year. But then next January, it's going back into Aquarius for the next 18 years. So
18, okay. Wait, now it doesn't leave Aquarius in this month or this month. It retrogrades in Aquarius and then goes back.
Right.
Oh.
It's going to go back into Capricorn in June.
In June, okay.
Yeah. It's only
it's right at that critical degree mark, right? Oh my God, that anaretic degree mark. It's right at that.
Well, no, the anaretic is the last. The eclipse is anaretic, but Pluto is at 0 degrees, which Pluto, the anaretic degree is the 29th degree of sign. It's the final.
Oh, it's not retrograding. What's it retrograding back to then?
It's going to go back to about 27 of Capricorn, but it's only gotten as far as 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is like total saturation. 0 degrees, if it was a painter's palette, would be all red without any yellow or blue. It's total saturation of the archetype, but it hasn't got. It's just dipped its toe in Aquarius, and now it's going to go back.
I know. Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. So much. Okay. Till next time. Thank you so much for being here, and I so enjoyed this. And I look forward to next time.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. I look forward to it as well. Thank you.
Take care. Bye, Daniel.
Okay. Namaste.
Namaste. All right, Soul Lights. That was Daniel Fiverson. You can find out more information about him as well as get his astrological weather report at evolutionaryastrologer.com. Wow, very cool stuff. I think we got to re-listen because there was some nice exchange there, inside information, but he brought up some key points and ways to kind of digest these aspects and what to do with them, with the energy of them. So I think pretty powerful. All right. As always, I love all of you being here. Also, remember to Soul Insights and Tarot. Other ways to connect with me are in the, as well as Daniel, are in the description of this podcast. Love for you to subscribe on YouTube to Soul Insights and Tarot, and also Awakenings with Michele Meiche podcast. Because we are going to be extending out to that, although people are already listening to the replays there as well. All right, Radiant Soul Lights, as always, continue to shine your light, share your insights, and, of course, keep awake.
Awakenings broadcasts every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Archive shows available on iTunes. For continued awakened conversations and insights, join the Awakenings group on Facebook. And check out Michelle's blog at soulplayground.com. And keep awake.